Hello and welcome back to my series of rambling videos about the Harry Potter film series. This is the fourth video in the series, so it means I'm looking at the fourth film, which is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. So Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire is my favourite book in the series. I love it for a couple of reasons. One of them is it does a really good job of balancing sort of widening out the wizarding world, so you get sort of a deeper insight um, into a wider universe with enough kind of, you know, like school teen drama stuff. It's actually particularly good at that, actually, this book, and the film actually captures it quite well as well. It does a really good job of balancing that with this sort of overarching Harry and Voldemort narrative, and actually really starting to ramp that up. And that's why I really enjoyed The Goblet of Fire as a book. As a film, not quite as... I didn't enjoy it as much as Prisoner of Azkaban. Mainly because of all the changes. There are more changes to this film from the book than there are, I think, in Prisoner of Azkaban. The first big one is that it jumps straight from the house where Voldemort and Peter Pettigrew and Nagini and the old guy, the gatekeeper, gets killed in. It jumps straight from that to the Weasley house. And Hermione's there, and they're all at the house, and there's absolutely no explanation of why they're there. The Dursleys make no appearance in this book. It's a bit odd. I find it a bit strange that it just jumps. I mean, obviously they had to try and fit it all into a, you know, hour and a half, 2 hour movie, but still, it felt a bit odd. But anyway, well, we'll talk about things I liked about the film, actually, and I did enjoy it, just not as much as the previous one. So what I enjoyed about the film, they captured one of the things about the book that I like the most, which is the Yule Ball. The Yule Ball in that in the book is such a perfect capturing of what it's like to be a teenager at a disco or dance or prom or whatever. It's exactly like that. We all remember it was exactly like that, and it's one of the things J.K. Rowling is very good at, is capturing what it's like to be a teenager. So, you know, I really liked that in the book, and in the film it works really quite well. There is a difference in it in that Ron and Hermione have their big blow-up argument outside of the Great Hall in the movie, rather than in the Gryffindor common room later on when Harry walks in on them. So yeah, but it works really well. I thought the acting stepped up from the kids in this one, stepped up quite considerably. Obviously they were getting better at acting as they went along. Emma Watson in particular is getting a lot better. Speaking of the kid actors in this, Neville Longbottom, I can't remember the name of the actor, sorry, I should prepare better for these. I thought the scene when Moody slash Crouch Jr., Barty Crouch Jr. Uses the curse, the torture curse, the Cruciatus curse, is that how you say it? I read it, so that's how I pronounced it in my head, and I can't remember what they say in the film, so that's Cruciatus, or Cruciatus is how I pronounced it anyway in my head. So he uses that curse on the spider, and the guy who plays Neville does a really good job of showing you know, that he's having these kind of disturbing memories about his parents. And I thought that was a really cool moment. It brings his character more to the fore as well, which I really liked. I thought the Weasley twins, Fred and George, much better in this film. I thought one of the things I didn't really mention in the other videos is I thought they were kind of one of the ones that were slightly underutilized. as characters. They're a couple of my favorite characters. I really like them. And I they're used a lot more in this film, and they add that element of comic relief, which just works really well, I think. Yeah, what else did I like in this film? The CGI and effects, again, for the time, it's 2005. Actually, before I talk about the CGI, it's sort of connected, but the general feel of this film, I like to talk about the general feel of the film. The general feel of it is much closer to it's much closer to the original. It's much closer to films of this time period. I don't know why I said original. A message is coming on my phone, distracting me. It's much closer to films of this era. It feels like a film from sort of, very much a 2005, 2006 up to sort of 2010, sort of slightly pre-Marvel films, but not sort of early enough to be in that kind of Lord of the Rings, Matrix, Gladiator kind of era. That they were dropping a lot of the filtering, the color filtering, and a lot of the stuff from the other early 2000s films. So the feel of the film is much more modern. So it doesn't, again, feels more realistic, but not quite as jarring as I found it in the last film. So we'll move on to things I didn't like about this film. Again, overall I enjoyed it, but the title of this video could possibly just be what the hell is up with Dumbledore in this film. I honestly, like Prisoner of Azkaban and this film, I don't like Gambon as Dumbledore. I mean, he's just all over the place. I mean, Harry, did you put your name into the Goblet of Fire? Which in the book he says calmly. In this film, he runs up to him, he grabs him by the collar, and he shouts at him, "Harry, did you put your name into the Goblet of Fire?" Which is just completely wrong on every level. It is so wrong. It's just, it just doesn't. It isn't what Dumbledore is in the books. Not even just how I imagine him in the books. It's just not even close. It's so weird. It's angry. It's overly emotional. There's no calmness. There's no collectedness. There's no coolness. So I didn't like Dumbledore in this film. I thought, again, Snape criminally underutilized in this film. He has one significant scene with Harry, and because it's Alan Rickman, again, it's fantastic. He just goes, when he delivers that line, "Don't lie to me," you get the full gravity of it, as only Alan Rickman can do. The fact that Spew was completely edited out of it. It was completely not even edited out. Wasn't even included in this film at all. The house elves aren't in this film at all, which kind of misses an opportunity to develop Hermione's character. They develop Hermione's character in relation to Ron, and their kind of relationship, which is fine, but I'd rather they develop her as an individual, rather than just her in relation to the guy she fancies. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit of it's a missed opportunity. One of that omission of the house elves and Spew was I think a real missed opportunity. I can't remember whether the dance routines that Durmstrang and Dumbledore says Beauxbatons in this film. surely if it's French, like I don't know, when I read the book in my head it was Beaubaton because it's French, um, but I don't know, Beaubatons, whatever. With Durmstrang, they do these dance routines, and I can't remember whether that's in the book. Um, there is a shot that I really hated that just made me go, why are you doing this? Where all the guys are like staring at the Beaubatons girls as they go by, and the camera fixates on their backsides, which is just like, you're kind of like, why? That's just, ugh. It was just disappointing, really. Honestly, it's just kind of like, why ruin? Well, I didn't ruin the film, but it's still just not cool. Um, yeah. So there's that. Victor, as somebody pointed out to me, Victor Crumb is nowhere near as awkward in this film as he is in the book. He seems a lot more slick and cool. But yeah, I'm trying to think of other things I liked actually, and one of the things I do really like is Robert Pattinson as Cedric Diggory. So Robert Pattinson, I think, is a something of an underrated actor, probably because of Twilight. He's actually a very good actor, but he just gets, you know, everyone just remembers him as that dude from Twilight, you know, sparkly vampire dude. But I thought he did a really good job as Cedric Diggory, and as a Hufflepuff myself, I was not offended by that portrayal. I didn't like the first task with the dragon, the way it was made really, like, it was just way over the top. The fight between Harry and the dragon, like, they destroy massive parts of Hogwarts. It looks like the dragon dies. Like, Harry doesn't use the Accio spell to get the egg to himself. You know, and Charlie isn't in this film either, which again, it's kind of like, it's alright, but like, you know, apparently he doesn't appear in any of the films, which seems a bit bizarre. But yeah, Charlie not being in this film was a bit odd. I mean, you've got all the dragons there. Why not? Why not expand the Weasley family a little bit? Anyway, yeah. So I didn't like quite a few bits of this film. Being my favorite book of the series, this film had a lot to live up to. And it hit the main story beats, I think. Actually, another thing I liked, which I didn't list at the beginning, the scene in the graveyard. Ralph Fiennes is brilliant as Voldemort. Completely opposite characters. But like his portrayal of Voldemort is like Alan Rickman with Severus Snape. He's savoring every moment of being this villain, which is great to see. Tom Hiddleston does that really well as well. Tom Hiddleston loves playing villains. He's one of these British actors who just delights in being a villain, which is great. There's a great ad by Jaguar with it's a total tangent, but with like him and Ben Kingsley and I can't remember the name of the other actor, where they talk about why British actors are always villains, and he just it's brilliant. So yeah, Ralph Fiennes was class as Voldemort, and that final scene in the graveyard, I thought, that it worked pretty well. It was pretty close to the books. So yeah, I think it did a good job of doing what the book does, which is expand the wizarding world, introduce, important elements of Harry and Voldemort's relationship going forward, so I gave the last one a 7, and the earlier ones I gave 6.5. So I'd say I enjoyed this one about as much as I enjoyed the first two. So, but there are more issues with this. so I can't just grade it on how much I enjoyed it. So actually, honestly, I'd probably have to give it a 6, so lower than the first two, which is probably controversial. But yeah, I'd give it a 6, and I'd give it, again, 3 stars out of 5, but 6 out of 10. Yeah, so I'll be watching The Order of the Phoenix tomorrow, which funny enough is my least favourite of the books, because it drags on and on and on and on, and the story doesn't go anywhere for like chapters and pod chapters. And I say this as someone who loves Lord of the Rings, which has completely superfluous chapters which have nothing to do with the main story. Looking at you, Treebeard. That chapter just, oh gosh. Anyway, I'm a total Tolkien nerd, but like that chapter, good grief. So yeah, I mean, if it's odd, like my favorite book, the movie adaptation, is my least favorite movie. So it'd be interesting to see if my least favorite book has the best movie adaptation. I'll probably do a summary when I watch. I'll be watching Deathly Hallows Part 2 on Christmas Eve. So once I do a video for that, yeah, I'll probably do a sum up of the whole series. I might do some rescoring actually, and sort of grade them maybe more in relation to each other, which I'm able to do now. I think I graded the first two in relation to other films. Now I'm kind of grading them in relation to each other, so it may be that the scores change by the end. We'll see. I know all like 20 of you who ever watch these videos are on tenterhooks for that. It'll make your Christmas, definitely. But I'll see you next week for Order of the Phoenix. See you.